Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pullman Police Advisory Committee. I am Stephanie Rink, the chair. We will start off with roll call. Dr. Macon?
David Macon.
Isabella Macon, high school representative.
Gwen Rink, high school representative.
Rocky Lucas, College Hill representative.
Melissa Painter, WSU staff and faculty representative.
Eric Tetzloff, business representative.
Amy Ripley, Military Hill representative.
Jake Opkenorth, Pullman Police.
Chief.
Darby Baldwin, Pullman Police Department.
Carol Dambuki, Multicultural.
Wonderful, thank you. We are going to do the approval of minutes. So for the September 12th minutes, do we have any comments, questions, revisions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the September 12th minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that passes. All right, we have a wonderful introduction today. Officer Romero, would you please take our podium and tell us all about you and your life experience of wanting to be an officer here specifically at Pullman Police Department?
All right. Well, like I said, I'm Officer Darren Romero. Originally from Lewiston. I graduated there in 2015. I'm married, and I have one son right now and another child on the way. I ultimately wanted to become a police officer because I just wanted to have an impact on people's lives, and I kind of knew I didn't want to be like do a 9-to-5 thing. So I'm in the Air Force Reserves, where I'm a security forces, which is basically just Air Force cops or gate guards, whatever you want to call them. But that kind of helped me get my foot in the door, and I kept applying with Pullman, and Chief gave me an opportunity, and I've never looked back. I worked at SEL for 4 years before that, great place. But I saw someone I worked with previously the other day, and they said, "Do you miss us?" And I'm like, I like what I'm doing now, but I like what I'm doing now. I like to snowboard in the winter, and I like being outdoors and into fitness a little bit.
So how long have you been with the department?
Since January. I got out of the academy in June, and this is my end of my second full week on my own.
And can you tell us a little bit about what drew you to Pullman specifically?
I had rode with Lewiston and some of the other surrounding areas, like out of the Quad Cities, and it seemed like some of the departments, I'll focus on Pullman. I liked Pullman because they seemed to be up to date with what was going on, having body cameras since 2013, very transparent with social media, and they have a really good relationship with the public, and I just wanted to be here to help. Kind of the last few years been a little rough, so just keep putting good interactions out there and helping people as much as I can. And even though we show up on their worst days sometimes, hopefully we can leave the situation a little bit better than we found it with a good resolution.
Wonderful. Any questions?
And I like everyone I work with.
That's always good.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
I like that slow. So, thinking about your time in the department, we always think there's a key event, or is there something that, an interaction or some type of experience that you've had so far that it kind of epitomizes like what it means to be an officer in Pullman? You'll have like one of those. You don't have to be very kind of descriptive, but just one of those stories that you might be able to share that says like, this is what it means to be an officer here.
That kind of started probably my first ride along with Pullman. Just seeing how, like I said, you want to leave the situation better than you found it. And so I watched some of these officers show up to situations, and they could have done all these things and really just kind of brought the hammer down, but instead used some discretion. And at the end of the day, these people are thanking us for what we're doing, and we're leaving them in a better spot than if we had just came down on top of them like we could have possibly, but I wasn't an officer at the time, so I didn't really understand what was going on. But leaving that situation that we were in and having them thank the officers was really, it was really good to see. And I was like, this is the kind of cop that I would aspire to be.
Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's a pleasure meeting you.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
All right, next up, I would like to welcome Officer Patterday to come speak about the Palouse Area Peer Support Team.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you not over Zoom, so this is much, you're not computer people anymore. So I'm here to talk about the peer support team that we have. It's a, so our peer support team is unique. It's unique from a statewide approach. So I thought Megan, our research person, was going to be here. She's not here, but she's been instrumental in getting us a grant to fund this program. And the way our program is unique is that it takes a regional approach as opposed to a singular agency approach. So we work with the Washington State University Police Department as well as Moscow Police Department. WSUPD has 2 members on it, and then Moscow has 4 members on their peer support team, and we have 5 members. That's Code Enforcement Officer Pons, Officer Chamberlain, Officer St. Andre, Officer Patterday, that's me. And then, boy, I am spacing on the 5th one. When I remember it, don't tell them. Oh, Officer Scott Patrick. Yeah, he's, I forgot about him. Definitely don't tell him, because he'll tell me about it. So I hope he's not watching right now. If he is, I'm sorry. So we take a regional approach to things, and this grant has allowed us the opportunity to go through like a basic CISM is what it's called, Critical Incident Stress Management course, which was a 24-hour course that covered how to deal with incidents, how to deal with the aftermath of a critical incident, not with the incident itself, but how officers are feeling or doing after that incident. So just looking at that aftercare that doesn't involve the scene, but involves increasing kind of, I guess, the longevity of officers. Because the biggest thing with officers is, I think the statistic with officers is there's like, the national average is an officer gets 18 months of their retirement or pension or whatever you call it before they stop collecting it. They stop collecting it for an obvious reason. And it's because there's some sort of health ailment that they succumb to. And so the peer support team is designed to look at that and say, okay, what's causing that? It's not only a physical thing, but maybe an emotional thing or a wellness aspect that has not been addressed. So that course gave us the tools to deal with a critical incident and talk to those officers afterwards to get them in a place where they are dealing with that problem now, as opposed to internalizing it, which is kind of, if you look at law enforcement over the years, that's been the mentality of, you know what, it's a bad call, just internalize it, nobody wants to hear about it, deal with it. And over time, that can lead to, obviously, consequences that would lead to not collecting a retirement for very long. So after that 24-hour basic course, we went to an advanced individuals in crisis training. That was a 2-day, 16-hour course, which dealt with dealing with people on an individual level. So the 24-hour course was if you did like a group setting. So a critical incident stress management or CISM with a group, and then the 16-hour course was dealing one-on-one with individuals. So just looking at another perspective on how to help people. We're currently going through the process of getting certified as critical incident stress management officers through, I believe it's the University of Baltimore, Maryland. So what's required for that is a test. I have not taken it yet. Some officers have. So Officer Pons, I know, is certified, and once some training's over for me, I'll get that done as well. So it's the peer support team's been working on that. And also, in terms of the regional aspect of it, or why that is so, I guess, beneficial, or is proven to be beneficial, is that there's people from other agencies who sometimes have these problems they're dealing with after a call or something, and they don't want to be seen as lesser than by their peers, or they don't want to be seen like, oh, I'm dealing with something, but I don't want you to know that I'm dealing with it. I don't want you to know that I'm hurting or that I'm bothered by this. But if with the regional approach, we get the opportunity where they can reach out to us. So let's say WSU officer has an incident, and then they say, I don't want people in my department to know I'm going through this. They can reach out to Pullman Police Department, someone there, someone who's kind of removed from the situation, and then can deal with it where then the people within their agencies don't have to know, and it removes kind of that stigma with it. So I think that that's definitely been a huge benefit to that regional approach. I mean, there has been, I can't obviously get into it, but there has been incidents where that has taken place, and it's been, I mean, you can see the benefit from it there as well. So that's what the peer support team's up to. Kind of a brief overview. I am open to fielding questions. I think that's how we'll get, I'm sure there's some burning ones.
Very burning, indeed.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
On fire.
Oh, boy.
You're talking about the benefits. So do you measure and have metrics that report on?
So we log we log in a very general sense because you can't get too specific with it. Because if you're doing peer support with individuals, one thing that those individuals want, or that we've seen, is they want that confidentiality aspect of it because of that stigma. And it's there, it's something we're moving away from, but it exists. So we give general data to our research assistant, Megan, and then she does, with that information, what she does for kind of categorizing that.
I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
First one is this a program that an individual officer would say, reach out for this, or is there like a process for like, if the chief was like, wow, I know one of my officers went through this really difficult thing, would they refer to that program? Does it work both ways?
So absolutely, and that's actually a great question, and it's something that I'm really proud of from looking at supervisors and how they've handled it. Is there have been incidents where there has been an incident that you could categorize as a critical incident or critical to somebody, and sergeants have reached out to members of the peer support team to be like, hey, this was the incident. Can you reach out to this person and talk to them? And that, I know, has been beneficial to individuals. And I think it's awesome that Chief Opgenorth has given sergeants that ability to say, hey, you know what a critical incident is. You know what's going to affect the officers because you work closely with them. If they need something, or if there's an incident where you think they might need help, reach out to these officers. Don't be concerned about this, that, or the other. If there's people that need help or might need help, reach out and we'll get it figured out. So I think getting that buy-in or support from the administration has been huge because Chief came up in law enforcement in that era where you don't talk about it, just internalize it. And instead of saying, well, that's the way I had it, so you deal with it too, he said, nope, we are going to make sure that our officers are well taken care of.
I'm in the mental health field, so I really enjoy hearing that there's that focus on the well-being aspect and reaching out. The second question, if you know the answer to this, who applied for the grant? Do you know if like one of the specific departments like located and applied for the grant, or if it was like a team effort to apply for the grant?
Can you answer that?
Microphone, please.
So no, yeah, we had during COVID, we had this unique opportunity. They had a COPS grant. And so one of the things that COPS is really focused on is how do you improve health and wellness of employees when you're talking about small departments that don't have the necessary resources to accommodate that, right? So Pullman on their own, trying to launch one of these programs tends to lack efficacy because there's only so many people to talk to, right? So when we sat down and talked to Chief Jenkins and Chief Opgenorth about what would they like to see, is we had a unique position. I think one of the things the COPS office probably liked the most is that we have 3 departments that are similarly situated that we could study the implementation of. So it's not so much the outcome, right? The outcome, the benefits of the program is very difficult to measure because it's like trying to measure the efficacy of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Like you can't do it. And so instead, what we did is we put together a proposal that said we're going to deconstruct the actual implementation So look at how they're bringing the peer networks together, how they're doing training, how the department is socializing that mental health is valuable. And it's one of the things that Pullman did that was, very early on. And so I have to be hands-off. So I can't, given my role, be embedded in it. But Megan could be because she's Pullman's research fellow at the time. And so what we did is we built out and we study all aspects of the implementation. So organically, when the department says, we should start doing flyers, right? We should start letting people know, here's all the wonderful things we're doing. And we start socializing the idea that getting help is cool, if you will. Like, it's okay to talk to people that you need help. That we study that socialization. You can't measure that in an instrument, but you can capture it in field notes. And so doing that for 3 departments, and what's something that's incredibly unique about what they are doing is staff are involved. And so typically what happens is we ignore staff, and they do a tremendous amount of work, and they carry a lot of emotional labor that doesn't get recognized. So in this application, we said, this is something that we will cover with staff, right, officers, and we'll really look at how to do this successfully in other organizations. The vast majority of agencies are the size of Pullman. We kind of forget that. We think of them like the Seattles and such, and they're not. So if we can study this and we can give back kind of a blueprint that says, here's what we learned in the implementation, here's the effectiveness of the program. So for example, do we see any meaningful shifts in stress, sleep, and other quality measures? So we have validated instruments that get used every month we collect a standardized measure from all employees. And then at the very end, we do basically a debrief with every single employee that's willing to talk to us to learn about the implementation, the sustainability, and really how to improve the program. So it was, it's 2 full years. We just finished the first year assessment, correct, Darby? The first year assessment. And I think what's really remarkable about this is that it's Megan's dissertation. And so we were able to kind of bake those together and kind of pair them up, which is unique. The COPS office does not provide a lot of money for this, which is what it is. I mean, health and wellness, there's only so much funds to go around, but CJTC has a wellness grant now. So yeah, I just told you a lot, but it's a really important program because in many ways this could be the model for other agencies in the state or around the nation that have this context, but have never thought, hey, how could we do that? And so Pullman, Moscow, and WSUPD will be the blueprint for here's how to do it, here's how to do it well, and then here are things to be mindful of. So yeah, it's been an embedded project, but yeah, very proud of that project.
Thank you, Dr. Macon. Any other questions for Officer Patterday? Thank you for coming tonight. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is really great. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's probably a million other things you'd, not obviously rather be doing here, but there's other things you could be doing but being here. So we definitely appreciate the community involvement and coming out. It really does mean a lot. So
Thank you. So next we have our new member application. Ms. Christina, will you please come to the podium? If you'd please introduce yourself and let the committee know why you're interested to be on PAC and what you can bring forward.
Of course. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Hi, my name is Christina Richardson. I am applying for the WSU student position in conjunction with Megan Parks. I'm a first-year PhD student in the program. I came over from Sam Houston State University in Texas, where I did my master's in criminal justice. Before that, I was at Southern Oregon University, and I got my bachelor's in psychology as well as criminal justice, as well as a certificate in conflict resolution. And between my I did a gap year between my bachelor's and my master's program, where I was actually a practitioner in the field. I was a case manager and group counselor for individuals on community corrections down in Phoenix, Arizona. So I really want to be on this committee because of my experience. I was an SOU, which is Southern Oregon University. I was on the assessment committee. I was on the foundation board. I was on strategic planning committees for both the local police department there as well as the university. So for me, I really love to give back to the community. And that's my research topic, is just the connection between criminal justice agencies and the public and how we can build those relationships, how we can understand it. And so this position really went hand in hand with not only with my research interests, but also with my background. So I also am very much connected within the WSU community. I am now the research fellow embedded within Pullman Police Department. And so with my projects with Pullman, I am reaching out to different departments at WSU, specifically focusing on linguistic and ability accessibility with the stuff that we're pushing out, such as the contact survey that was recently approved. And so I'm calling with all these departments on how Pullman Police can better the relationships with the community, and especially WSU, since we are a college town, of course. So other departments I'm working with at WSU include international students as well as departments focused on developmental disabilities. So bringing in those because of my mental health background. And so I want to bring that to the PAC Commission, PAC Committee, as well as bring my experience of walking in the field and with different populations.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Christina? Okay, so at this time, we are going to stop recording. We are going to ask you to just step out in the hallway while we discuss you and your qualifications.
Okay.
And then we will ask you to come back in once we have made our decision.
Perfect, thank you.
So don't go anywhere.
I won't. Thank you for your time.
Christina, welcome to PAC. Thank you. You may now come and have a seat with us. We are so delighted that you have joined our committee and looking forward to all the volunteer items that you'll be helping with and everything. All right, next up, we have a discussion, our appearance policy. Chief, please go to the podium.
All right, so as promised, I planned to ask you, this committee, for a little help in guiding me through some of these things. This is one of those areas when we talk about policies and changes to policies. I thought to myself, this committee is a perfect opportunity for me to engage the community and say, and ask, what should a Pullman police officer or staff member look like? What to you is acceptable, what is professional, and help guide me. So I threw some things together. I hope you had a chance to look at it. Some of the guidelines start from Lexipol and different organizations like WASPIC and IACP, International Associations of Chiefs of Police, and they have a very conservative, rigid definition of what a police officer looks like. But after talking with some staff, I kind of wondered, do we need to stay at such a conservative level, or should we try and embrace diversity a little bit and say it's okay to look different ways? So that's where I'm at right now. So I thought we would start with, what is our mission, vision, and values? So our mission is to provide professional police services that prioritize public safety, quality of life, and the rights of all. So again, professional police services, that's something that we'll keep on saying. What does it mean to be professional, but also what does it look like to be professional? And then our values, courage, integrity, and compassion, and then our vision that we're a leader in the law enforcement community. So what does it look like to be a leader? Do what everybody else does, or come up with our own policy that we think is right for us? So the purpose, obviously, of an appearance policy is we all need to look like who we are. So if you see officers on the street, they're readily identifiable as police officers, not somebody dressed up as a police officer on Halloween or anything else. So that's kind of the purpose of behind the uniform, is so we all look the same. And it should project not only uniformity, but neutrality towards the public and other members of the department. They should be clean, neat in appearance, and just, again, project a professional image. Once again, we're coming back to that word professional. Years ago, we had an issue because I think our policy said something to the effect of contemporary community standards. Well, these are all definitions that are hard to define. And so I'm trying to come up with a policy that'll help define what these things mean. Some of the things that I want to talk about is what is appropriate for hair. So obviously, I think your hair should be neat in appearance. But then we talk about length. That's where I grew up as a police officer. They basically said your hair can't go past your collar. And if it was, it had to be up. And nothing else was said other than in general, you had to look professional. And that pretty much meant hair like I have now. But now everybody wants to express themselves. And so we talk about hair coloring, dyed, tinted, bleached, whatever, or patterns cut into the hair. So on the right side image is what I'm used to, and to me, that's professional. On the left side image, I'm not going to go that far, no matter what you guys say. I'm not going to say it's okay to cut lizards into your head and dye them green and whatever color. But is there an in-between ground that would be acceptable and that you guys would recommend? The first thing we can talk about is dyeing hair. So all of the cop policies I see say you can dye your hair as long as it's a natural human hair color. So it can't be like you. We couldn't have pink bangs. But what's wrong with that? And how do I write that in a policy? Would that be okay for a police officer to have that hairstyle? What if it was our records people? What if it was Darby? So I need to write policies that cover all the different positions in my department. So I think it'd be easiest if we get comments as I go through this. So does anybody have any comments on hair right now?
So I will give my opinion. I like the more professional look. I am not a fan of colored hair in any type of a profession, whether that it's just pink bangs. Sorry, but your bangs look absolutely beautiful on you. But if I'm going to be approached on any given day, on my worst day, which you normally go to, I want someone that's going to look professionally and not have that hair color that, yes, it's all of a judgment, but we do judge everybody based on their appearance. But I want somebody that is going to be what I believe is going to come looking at a professional.
Okay, so what I hear from you is if you call because you're having your worst day and an officer shows up, you don't want lizard man.
No, I definitely don't want lizard man.
Okay, so you want to look professional when an officer shows up. What if you go to the police department and you are being helped at the front desk? Is it different then?
No, not necessarily. So for me, in any type of professional organization, even if it's a doctor's office or anything, I would rather see somebody in a neutral human hair color than bright pink or
So I guess
purple.
that's where I'm coming at is I have uniformed and non-uniformed staff. And do I have different standards for each or the same? So you want the same?
I want the same.
Okay. Go ahead. Whoever was up first.
So, my opinion, how we as a society are changing right now, I feel like not having just natural hair colors could create better community engagement, because if a police officer walks up to you and has say my hair, and you're like, oh, so this police officer knows me but can enforce the law. It's I get older generations would be like, no, you have to have this kind of hair. But
older generations?
This is going to be an exciting meeting.
But us as younger generations, we are growing up. The tide is changing. So we as a society will also need to change as well. I'm not saying that we should have lizard man in public, in a public space. But I'm also saying that having a little bit of color to your hair doesn't change what you do. It doesn't even change how you are presented. It just changes you have colored hair.
And this applies to all my staff for you?
Yeah, any staff,
So
honestly.
let's just throw out lizard
Can I
guy.
just say one thing first?
Okay.
That is a very good, valid point that you bring up. However, if Chief was going to write an appearance policy based on you can have some colored hair, whether it's your bangs or the entire head of hair, how would he possibly make that policy and define exactly the measurements of hair?
Less than 25% can be a color other than natural.
I like that.
You can do a shadow, you can do a highlight.
That's what I can do, guys. So, yeah, okay.
Are there currently any issues? Is there a reason why this is being put into place now?
Basically, because I have staff that are expressing themselves, and so I am seeing two sides of it, where you have some staff that say, I don't like this other person's look, I don't think it's professional or distracting, and then you have the other group saying, hey, I'm just trying to be me, and then I'm looking at it saying, I need to settle this, just let me just create a policy and then leave it.
I do understand that it's very difficult to create policies that kind of touch on all possibilities, but in talking to, because once I heard, my first visceral thought when I heard this a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh God, really, an appearance policy? But I talked about it with several people I know, various just professionals within the community who are interested in these sorts of things. And one of the things that stands out about the Pullman Police Department is, in comparison to a lot of police departments, it's very progressive. And so the first thought that I had, and the first thought a lot of my peers have when they hear this is, oops, they're going the wrong direction. For so many things that Pullman PD has done well to be progressive, there's this thought oh, okay, of course the policy gets written more and more and more conservative to appease those who are sometimes of the older, more traditional generation that have a certain set of expectations. And I do think the expectations are changing. So is there a current policy, and what does the current policy say?
We have a city policy and a department policy, and they both basically said neat and professional in appearance. And so then we can apply, historically, what has been applied and enforced was contemporary community standards. And the example I could give, and this is going to date me here, how old this was an officer wanted to grow a mullet. And he said, well, everybody has mullets, so I want to grow a mullet. And so he argued it, saying, I think that's contemporary community standards. Go up on campus and you'll see this. And so our guild took it to arbitration, and they lost the grievance because they said that doesn't apply to police. Contemporary community standards for law enforcement is what you should do, so cut your hair and keep it above your collar. So that's where we're coming from, and I want to look into, I guess, opening those options.
So first, Gwendolyn, you had something that you wanted to state earlier?
Yeah, so basically I agree with Issa and I agree with everyone. Basically, I think it doesn't matter like the color-wise or how much, as long as it does look professional, because you can still have colored hair and look professional. Like they can express themselves, like piercings, tattoos, like you can still be looking professional, especially how our generation is growing. A lot, like back then, like let's say like tattoos, piercings, color, they would not be accepted. Like the field I'm going to be going into, you cannot have tattoos or anything. But now you're seeing a lot more progression with people that are expressing themselves. And yeah, Lizardman probably shouldn't. But like if I saw a police with like, let's say like bright blue hair, then I would still like respect them. Like a police officer that has just regular like hair and colors. But, and then like, I don't know, it's just like they're more, I don't know. I guess like sometimes it can be more of like they're more approachable especially to younger generations, if they're like looking more like them but still professional, because they don't look completely intimidating because you know that they are expressing themselves and they know what they like, but they know that they still can do their job. I don't know.
Thank you.
I said one more comment.
Okay.
So had you said that you noticed staff looking unprofessional and it had bothered you, then I'd be like, okay, that's a perfectly reasonable, okay, set a new policy. But it sounds like you haven't had an issue with it. It's other people coming to you and saying, please do something about this. Is that accurate?
I recognize that I have some implicit biases, and I keep them to myself.
Okay.
I think no matter where you draw the line, it's a line. You know what I mean? And
Well,
so, and then there'll be a discussion either way. So, you know.
And I know I can't make everybody happy. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah.
I'm trying to find a balance here.
And I just want to throw out there that hair in particular, just in the multicultural community, has been a hot button issue when students have been made to cut their braids and things like that for sporting events. And I don't know how familiar you are with some of that that's been going on. I don't see a lot of that reflected here because we're not really talking a lot about African American hair, for example. But I just wanted to pull that out there that some people might have long hair or extensions or braids or things like that, and it might be difficult to put that up.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask you, if there would be something that would prevent the hair from being up. And the concern is more of an officer safety thing.
Right.
You don't want a big, massive hair that you can easily grab onto and
exactly,
use
which is
against them.
why I think you'd want hair up no matter what. Yeah, yeah. So that's something to think about.
Okay.
But, obviously somebody working in records I think, could have different standards. I mean, I'm an old fart. You know, my dad had mutton chops and curly hair and tie-dyed jeans and what have you. I used to have long hair myself. So a lot of this is very contextual as to current society, as to what's professional or not. I'm an attorney. I attend Zoom hearings in jeans when I can. And so when you write rules, which is what you're going to be doing, a policy is a rule, you want it to be flexible enough so that there's gray areas people can go into that everybody's okay with, but you want it to be certain enough that you know when folks have, quote, crossed that line. So good luck.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to take one more comment from Eric.
I feel, in a sense, that one of the biggest when I am dealing with someone, it's like, it doesn't really matter, like, say, what color their hair is, for example. It's more with how their demeanor, how they interact, and then also some of that goes along with what I would call what dress, what they're wearing, for example. I mean, police officers, for example, have uniform and so there's a fairly solid uniform. That's what they're going to be wearing. And then if they have a professional demeanor to go along with it, I don't really care what color their hair is or if it looks a little odd if they're behaving and interacting in a professional manner, because that's, I think, what's most important.
Okay, so I lied. We're going to take one more comment.
This will be brief. I'm known for my brevity. So this sounds to me like a wonderful opportunity to have Christina do a deep dive into DEI policies for police departments, law enforcement, and then do a report out to you and the committee. That's what I would propose. And we can still go through this and discuss it, but I think it's a wonderful opportunity for her to collate the research, look at what the debates are, and then be able to come to the table with some very specific policies. That also assumes that you have not already requested that of her, and I'm just re-proposing it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll consider that. At the same time, I don't want to wait forever.
This could be done in 2 weeks. This
Okay.
is not
2
insurmountable.
weeks.
This is like 2 weeks.
Okay, moving the next subject.
Next. All right, facial hair. So right now we have a policy that says you can have a mustache that can't go much farther than the corner of your mouth. Like that. That's it. No goatees, no beards for uniformed officers. Anybody else, it's okay to have facial hair. So if you're in non-uniform, if you're in records, whatnot. So there's been a lot of officers that would sure like to be able to grow a beard and wear a uniform. And so I guess that's where I'm coming at you, is what do you guys think? I would consider a groomed beard to be acceptable, as long as it doesn't look like Ryan Fitzpatrick in the center picture there. I think that's too much. But if an officer wanted something groomed, I would take that into consideration. So any thoughts on that?
So sorry, I will start off with my comments.
Okay.
So I agree, I do not like the middle picture, but if we are going to use a live example, I will look over at Dr. Macon. He has a very nice, well-groomed beard and mustache. But I'm just saying that is something that I would find perfectly acceptable on an officer. It's nice, clean, kept, well-groomed, and I think that would be good. Melissa?
I agree. I second that thought. My only thought regarding beards coming from previously a health and safety standpoint is when, if ever, would they need to be able to utilize masks? Like thinking back on, and I can't think of what's called, but the fit test that healthcare providers have to go through. Is there any instance in which you foresee this being, like a significant detriment to your officers being able to do that?
No, because we don't have to don our masks very often, and I would have the expectation that you would shave it if we need to put on our masks. So,
And I believe that his beard is, short enough that you could put have a fit mask over it. So that would kind of be my thought in saying, yes, I approve, but also making sure that if for some reason they would need to do this for safety reasons, they could still have a mask that properly fits and seals.
yeah, what other departments have done is if what we provide you doesn't seal at your own expense, you can buy a mask that will seal over a beard, or you can shave it before you have to put it on. So say, for example, we have a disturbance, a riot in town, we're calling everybody in, get your riot gear. I come in with my beard and grab the clippers and just, doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to get the hair off enough to seal a mask.
Rocky?
I would just like to acknowledge that this is one part of this policy that it appears to be moving in a progressive direction. So I definitely like you said, those are really great examples up there on the ends of very professional groomed beards. And I think that it would probably be a boost to the officers' morale to be able to express themselves with their beards.
Okay.
I just have a curiosity question. When it says beards must be worn with a mustache, why?
That's just the model that I was seeing that I started with to bring here. I don't know why. Apparently, it must be a thing that having a beard with no mustache doesn't look professional, but if you add the mustache to it, it does. I don't know.
I'm sure. I just thought it was really.
Christina?
Hi, I have two things. First is Harris County, they originally had a no-bill policy, but then they adopted it for officers of different religious backgrounds. So I think that's also good for inclusivity. And also, depending on some officers' facial structure, I think a bill can also allow them to look older and command more presence at a scene, as well as give them confidence and not have to worry necessarily about shaving it down every single day, and they can go to walk and focus on that rather than the appearance in regards to facial hair.
Any other final comments? Gwendolyn?
I'll just say that it just needs to look well groomed. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Last comment?
I'm just going to throw out, so would there be some sort of stipulation that would, I would say, prevent offensive cuts, looks? I mean, it's rare, so I hope it not be an issue, but I just throw that out because, it's one of these extremes that you would.
So stating that no patterns or designs are allowed to be cut into said beard.
Okay. Well,
Like the hair.
I don't know, it's just.
Okay.
I think that would count under the hair. No patterns or designs are allowed to be cut into the hair. I view a beard as being hair. So no
Yeah.
purple beards, no patterns cut into them.
Or looks that make it look like something, offensive, racist, whatever,
Okay.
All right, next topic.
So no lightning bolts. Fingernails. So I don't really have a problem with fingernails, except for I think that they should not be super long. I measured what 1/4 of an inch beyond the fingertip is with a ruler, and I'm like, that seems pretty long for an officer. I've witnessed officers with long fingernails having problems at the range because of their fingernails around the pistol. So I think that for a uniformed officer, that I'm good with no longer than 1/4 inch. The model policy talks about fingernail polish and designs, that it has to be like a conservative professional color, no designs, all the same color, all these other things. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody go and have their nails done and come back with their nails looking like that very often. So I don't necessarily have a problem with fingernails and some designs. But again, I'm asking you, is that professional? Is that okay? Should it be allowed?
So my opinion, I will state that I like colored nails. I need to get mine redone. as long as it is not some offensive, bright, neon, weird color, or the patterns of it is not offensive to any one person. So for example, at Christmas time, they probably shouldn't have Christmas designs, different things like that. So anybody wouldn't be offended, but just a nice, simple flower pattern or whatever, different colors. That's my opinion.
So at Christmas time, if they had like snowflakes and things like that, that'd be
Yes,
okay?
because that's a typical, normal winter occurrence that happens for that precipitation. Gwendolyn?
So yeah, I agree with the 4-inch beyond the fingertip because it could definitely be dangerous in different situations. Like I've had long nails, they're not fun, especially if you rip one and in a situation with like a suspect or anything, that could very much evolve into lethal or anything like that. For designs, yeah, I agree. Kind of like simple and make sure they're like non-offensive, and like the color's fine as long, again, as it's not like bright neon.
Okay.
One question I have about length. What about any issues like when, let's say, an officer's like arresting someone, they don't want their fingernails digging in this? I mean, are there things like that to consider in terms of like officers working with someone and not wanting to like?
I don't know of any data that's talking about the length of fingernails injuring those that we're arresting for like handcuffing or whatever.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't want to be the fingernail police and measure fingernails all the time. And there's some male officers that probably need to trim theirs and they're not even intending to grow them too long that could probably hurt people.
I would definitely say that it doesn't matter if you have short or long, you can still hurt people with your nails. But I think it would be more of if their fingernail gets ripped off during something, that would not feel so great.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
What about for other staff? Same rules apply? If you're working in behind the desk at the front counter?
Gwendolyn?
I mean, it could maybe be a little bit different, like maybe the length is different as long as it doesn't cause them to get behind on their work or anything. Like if they have like really extreme long nails, I would say no to that. But like if it's like more than a 1/4 inch, but like, yeah, just like something that keeps them ahead on their job.
Any other comments?
I'll go ahead on this one. So I'm not sure about the multicolored part because I know kind of if you start heading into the nail salons, the trends are fancy and do, you know, different designs, and I think that would negate that part. The one thing I would consider is the shape of the nail, because there is a shape right now, it's an almond shape that's pretty popular.
I was going to say, isn't there something that's really pointy?
Yep, and it's super pointy. So I know even in my own career, I wouldn't go with that shape because it could injure even children. So mine are still pretty long though. So just my thought, the multicolored ones, it's kind of a thing, and maybe not the fluorescent so much. So.
I'd like to say with comment, I love Amy's nails when she gets them done, and she'll oftentimes do like an alternate color on the ring. And then I also noticed the comments in here about French tip okay, you know, only 2 colors. I would maybe say, maybe have that potentially as a guideline of 2 colors, then they can do, you know, all 1 color with 1 alternate, or they can do a French tip, but they're not going so outrageous that, you know, it's every color of the highlighter, you know.
What if they want to do a rainbow?
Well, I mean, then
That
that's
isn't
something
2 colors.
different. But, yeah. Yeah, okay, fine, as long as it has sparkles.
Any further comments? All right, next topic.
All right, let's talk about jewelry. So the policy again says basically you can't wear any earrings, necklaces, bracelets, or big conspicuous rings while on duty. But if you're not uniformed, then you can wear earrings. And nothing else body, facial piercings are allowed. That would be the model policy. So for a uniformed officer, that's mainly a safety issue. Wearing earrings, wearing jewelry, anything that can get ripped out of you or choked you or something like that in a scuffle, we try to avoid. But if I take that out of the equation and apply it to our non-uniform personnel that are sitting in the office, is that okay? Or should we say, no, we should let them do whatever they want? And so I guess that's where the jewelry comes into it, because right now, it basically, if we enacted the policy that was provided to us, it would say you could have one earring in your ear. You could have one ring on your finger. And there's, most of the people in our department would be violating that policy. So I'm like, ooh, let's not go that way, right, Rocky? Yeah, so, I don't want the guy on the left, but I'm okay with some jewelry in the face and some piercings in the face. So what would be the appropriate balance? And what would be professional? Looks like you have a comment.
I always have comments. A question for you. So what facial piercings would you allow an officer versus a non-uniformed staff?
I don't think that any piercings above the neck probably wouldn't be authorized for a police officer.
Okay.
That's how it is right now. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody disagree with that for the safety reasons.
Okay.
Outside of that, we have staff in our office that are expressing themselves, and it's causing some turmoil, and they want an answer. That's where I'm coming from. So where I'm telling you, the pincushion on the left, I don't think, to me, that would just be too distracting. Sorry. But I would be okay with some amount. So if it was me, I would probably say you can have one piercing in your face, not on your mouth.
So that opens up a very large wide of different type of piercings and sizes for the face.
Yeah. And then another thing I added in there, and I don't think it's on here, is talking about the actual jewelry. Oh, size and style of jewelry. So you can see back here, what is that one called? The septum, this thing you pierce? Well, that's not that big of a deal unless you put this thing in that's like, the size of a silver dollar. And then to me, personally, I don't think that it looks professional. It's distracting. And so, yeah, these are considerations. How many and where and what size of jewelry?
So my opinion is for your regular non-uniform staff, earrings I think are fine except for the large grotesque, long, dangly, very large hoop earrings.
Okay.
The facial piercings, I don't mind a small brow piercing or a nose piercing stud. Everything else, I think, actually right now looks unprofessional for people. We are moving towards progressive, but that is towards that for those two sitting over there.
Well,
those are my opinions.
I'd argue for the Madonna as well, the upper lip, just tiny little mole one. I don't have one. I have a nose stud, and I love it. But yeah, I think that would maybe be the other one that I think I see quite common. And I think, okay, her appearance looks, I don't know, well put together, pretty. I don't know.
Okay, we'll do Rocky, then Gwendolyn.
I mean, I'm in agreement with you, Stephanie. I think that the inconspicuous is important. I like to think that, you notice this, but it doesn't distract you too much. And so I'm in agreement. I think, Obviously, you know, those who choose to be the actual like officers out in the field, there are safety risks to consider, and so they don't get to express themselves in the same way as office staff do. But I think, yeah, anything that's not large, dangly, gangly should be appropriate. And I do think limitations also. You know, if someone came in with a brow and a nose and a lip, that's when you're like just noticing their whole face. And so, you know.
Yeah. Gwendolyn?
So yeah, I agree. Basically, like, no like gauges or anything that are too like outlandish, but like, so for amount of piercings, I would think maybe like an eyebrow, a nose, ears, that's all right. Like if they have like 2 nose piercings, I don't think that would be good. For the nose piercing, the stud more, but if they just have like one, like the nose ring, but that's like small, like that picture, but then they don't have any other piercings, I think that probably would be all right. But like no like Medusas or anything like that.
So you're thinking one on the face, whether eyebrow, stud, or a small ring?
Like 1 to 2, like, but not like
But you'd be
really
okay
more
with
than
one.
that. Yeah.
Any other comments?
Well, I guess I get, you know, when you try to write a policy like this, I think some of this is really about the employees themselves that have it, right? So for their own wellness perspective, why, you know, is this something that they need, right, to be able to display? I think we very rarely ever have those conversations with employees around, why is this meaningful for you, right? So we can figure out, does it need to be one, where can it be? I think you can write it in a very general way that allows for that opportunity to say, hey, you know, these 3 or these 4 are meaningful to me, and here's why they are. And then it allows it for the chief to be able to make that determination. I think it gives a little agency to the employee to say that this is, for me, this is meaningful. I think it goes a long way in terms of the organization's culture as well, right? And research tends to support that, right? You give them a little agency, a little say. I'd be really curious to know what your non-uniform personnel, right, your sworn, what their thoughts were on some of these items, particularly those that do have those or would like to have them. I imagine it's probably pretty meaningful for them. There's got to be a reason behind it beyond, well, I just want it. So.
Next topic.
We also touched on wristwatches and bracelets. I don't really have a problem with this. Basically, medical alert bracelets are authorized. I thought it was interesting when they talked about wristwatches and the design has to be conservative, modest size, no wider than 1 inch. Wristbands only if it's, you know, memorializing fallen officers, things like that. Anyway, I don't know that this is, we have officers that wear these wristbands. We have officers that wear watches like that. It hasn't been a problem either way, but if it's something that I'm including as part of the appearance policy, I just wanted to get your feedback.
I have not seen any wristwatch or anything that is offensive in any type of way so far, so I don't think that's an issue.
This seems fairly standard to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next topic.
More jewelry. So then it talks about contacts. The policy would say that the contacts have to be basically a natural looking, not unnatural eye color or graphic designs or whatever else.
Yeah.
Anybody oppose that?
No.
Okay. Tattoos and body art. So right now, basically we when we're hiring somebody, we make sure that we look at their tattoos, make sure that they're not offensive, racist, anything like that. But other than that, we really don't have much of a policy. We've had policies, well, I don't know if it would be policy or just the chief's expectation 2 chiefs ago that was no tattoos could be visible. And so if officers had tattoos on their arms, they had to wear long sleeves at all times. So since looking at this proposed Lexipol policy, this is kind of how they laid it out with tattoos and body art. and that I don't have a problem with, really. One, you can have a wedding ring tattoo on the ring finger. You can have tattooed eye makeup. Some people do that. And I'm not an expert on any of this, so correct me if I'm wrong. You can't have any tattoos depicting racist, indecent, extremist, lawless, or offensive themes. So nothing offensive. And then any tattoo or body art associated with any organization that advocates discrimination, etc. So that's easy. But then we go to tattoos on duty, and the policy recommended basically no tattoos above the neck and no tattoos on the hands. And so it was pointed out to me that some people do have tattoos above the collar, above the neck, and they're not a problem. What's the problem with having a tattoo? Well, I guess I would have a problem if you have tattoos on your face. And I put that example in. That's really even not that offensive, but it's a facial tattoo. But what about the people that have a tattoo behind an ear or on the back of their neck? And I'm like, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. So I guess the above the collar thing is kind of silly. So we added in there, or I changed it to no forward-facing tattoos or body art on the head, face, or neck. And then nothing below the wrist. The idea in there is if you don't have anything above the neck or below the wrists, I can put on my Class A uniform and go sit and testify in court, and nobody will know or know about my body art. So I'd have that option to keep that private, or take my sleeves off if I'm in uniform and express myself while I'm on duty. So I felt like that was a good balance.
I agree with that. I don't see any problem with it.
I think you struck a good balance. I agreed.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, which is based on what Christina mentioned on religious or cultural practices, and this way you have an inclusive policy. But I think this seems very appropriate. I just add that recommendation.
Okay.
Final comments?
Oh, looks like this was just a mistake on me. Oh, so body alterations includes tongue splitting and piercings, transdermal implantations. So that's talking about like if you've ever seen people like put horns in there, and so they walk around with devil horns or whatever. Abnormal shaping of the ears, eyes, nose, or teeth, and branding and you know, is anybody familiar with number 4, that branding, is it scarification?
Yes.
So
I don't have to me, I look at that as more like a tattoo. So tell me what you think.
well, there are certainly cultural traditions that have scarification. My husband has his name, and it was done when he was a child. So I wouldn't want him to not have a profession he was interested in just because that was part of his cultural tradition.
Right. I think I would like to put that under the same guidance as tattoos and treat it the same as a tattoo.
That's what sort of kind of basically they are now.
Yeah.
The one thing about number 3 is the abnormal shaping, but they now do jewelry on teeth. So you might want to add that too.
Okay.
Any other comments? Next.
That's it.
Great. Well, we have you again for the police department update.
All right, so police department update. We are currently, we just got Officer Abby St. Andre back from the academy within a few weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned that last time I was here, but she's been in FTO Phase 1 for a couple weeks now. Obviously, you met Officer Romero, who graduated from the FTO Academy and is working as a solo officer now. Unfortunately, one officer did not make it through training, and he's been let go. So we'll have to fill that position all over again. that's kind of a bummer because it's such a long process to find the right person, to get them through backgrounds, to get them through basic law enforcement academy. But we spent, for what is typically a 12-week training period, we spent 17 weeks trying to work with this officer to get him ready for solo when we weren't able to. So that's a bummer. We have one officer applicant in backgrounds now, and next week will be the polygraph, and so I expect this officer will pass the polygraph and we can get the officer into basic academy in Spokane in December. So outside of that, we still have 2 positions to fill now since we just created an opening today. We are down 1 in our records levels, but we have 1 person currently in backgrounds to fill that position. Hopeful that that'll work out. She has some experience in records and in law enforcement, so it'll be a great fit for us. We're still looking for applicants for our IT position. We haven't received any applications recently. And code enforcement, we're currently fully staffed. Let's see, right now, this week, in this room, Monday through Friday, we are hosting a hostage negotiations and critical incident training for the region. So we have several officers that are attending that and many more from around the area that are coming and going to that training. So that's great that we were able to host that training. And we're looking for more trainings that we can host coming up. It does usually amount to a decent cost savings for us if we can get enough interest in local agencies to also send their people. And I think right now that's about it. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Chief? All right, thank you, Chief.
There always has to be one.
All right, do we have anybody would like to have any report out for their area? No? Seeing we don't have any public, so we can't do public comment. Our next meeting is November 14th. I will see you all then. Have a wonderful evening.